Hello everyone, I'm Tenzing Minki, GT Bioscience from Upper Sherry Junior High School. So today I'm here to teach another chapter from the 6th standard. But before we start with today's class, I want that all of us should just relax for some time, okay? Now what I want you to do is just breathe in, take a deep breath and release. So what are we doing in this process? Yes, you must be knowing that what we have just done right now is breathing. When we breathe in, we are taking an important gas into our body, and that is known as oxygen. And when we release another gas, and that is carbon dioxide. Now you know from your earlier classes that oxygen is a very important part of our lives. So where do we get the oxygen from? Yes, we get oxygen from the atmosphere. But now we must also know one more thing, that is we also get oxygen from the plants. And we are very fortunate to be living in a place where there is so much greenery. So we are surrounded by plants, and that is why, since we get oxygen from the plants, we must learn to respect the plants. So by now you must be knowing which chapter we are going to be learning today. So we are going to be doing the 7th chapter from class 6, and that is getting to know plants. So like I told you, since we get oxygen from the plants, it is very important. Plants are very important for our survival. So what are plants? So plants are living things, and they are made up of cells. They need air, water, soil and sunlight to live. They cannot move from place to place, but their leaves move to catch the sunlight, and their roots move so that they can get water. Now in your previous classes, you must have studied that a plant has two systems. So you can see in the picture here, this is a plant, and the part of the plant which grows above the ground is called as the shoot system, and the part of the plant which grows under the ground is called as the root system. So let us try and understand, like I have already told you that plants are important, so let us try and know some more importance of plants. So plants are very important because number one, they provide us with food. We eat the different parts of the plants which we've already studied in our first chapter. Plants also give us medicine. Trees are used to make furniture, they are used to make paper. They provide habitat for animals and humans. They also protect the soil from the erosion. And lastly, and the most important thing that we get from plants, like I have already mentioned, they give us oxygen. And oxygen is a very essential gas without which there can be no sustenance of life. So plants, they can be broadly classified into 3 categories, that is herbs, shrubs and trees. Now when we look around, we see so many different varieties of plants, isn't it? So we see some plants, they are small, some plants are quite big, and some plants are very, very big and tall, isn't it? So the plants that grow very close to the ground, they are known as herbs. Now plants with green and tender stems are called herbs. They are usually short and may not have many branches. They are also used for food, for flavoring, for medicine, and some of them are also used to make perfumes. So here I have an image which shows the different types of herbs. And herbs, they are also used in the kitchen. They can be used in the kitchen to make our food more flavorsome. So some of the herbs that we use are basil. So you know what basil is? Basil is tulsi, commonly known as tulsi. It is a very important herb and it has lot of medicinal properties. Then there are other herbs like which we might not be very familiar with. Examples can be tarragon, oregano, rosemary, thyme, dill, parsley and coriander. Coriander, I'm sure all of us know, it is dhania. And oregano also, it's used as a flavoring agent and we use it in our junk food, especially in pizzas and all, we use that. So these are some examples of the herbs that are used in our kitchen. These are some common herbs that we use. So you can see a picture of coriander, dhania, and you can also see mint. So mint is also a herb and it is known as pudina in our language. Next we come to a plant which is a little bigger and taller than herbs, but they are not very tall. So they may grow up to a height of around 6 to 7 feet. Some of them might even be a little more taller. So what are shrubs? So shrubs, some plants have the stems branching out near the base. So this is the base of the plant and you can see that the branches are very near the base of the ground. The stem is hard but not very thick. Such plants are called shrubs, and an area of cultivated shrub in a park or a garden is known as a shrubbery. So there are many shrubs. I'd like to show you some pictures of some shrubs which you might be familiar with. So you can see a shrub here. So you can see all the branches, they are very close to the ground. And shrubs, the stems are woody, but they are not very thick. That is why we can break them. See, this is a rose plant, which is also a shrub, very commonly found here in Sikkim also. This is a shrub which is known as an azalea. So azaleas are very common in Sikkim. If you have never seen such a plant, whenever you visit the market, you must have been to the supermarket. So just below the supermarket, you can find lot of azaleas growing there. So that is an example of a bush. They are found in different colors, a variety of colors. Next we come to is trees. Now trees are very tall plants and they are very strong plants. So some plants are very tall and they have a very hard and a thick brown stem. The stems have branches in the upper part much above the ground. So this is a tree. The stems have branches. These are the branches of the tree and they grow much above the ground. You can see this is distance from the ground. These kind of plants are called as trees. They live very long. Some even reach several thousand years. For example, the banyan tree, the peepal tree, they live for very long. Now, if you look at this picture, you can see this is a picture of a tree. Okay, I have just focused on this. This we know as a stem. But a tree's stem is called a trunk. So the thickest part of the tree, which is woody in nature and which is very, very thick and it is very strong, this part is called as the trunk. So here is an image of the different types of trees. So you can see a mango tree, a coconut tree, a pine tree very common in Sikkim. peepal tree, banyan tree, neem tree. So all these trees, if you notice, they are very tall, they are very big and they are strong, and we cannot break the stem or the branches very easily. And I hope you can distinguish the trunk. This is the trunk of each plant. Now, why do trees have so many leaves? So as the plant gets bigger, it needs more food and more air. So it must grow more leaves. It grows more branches so that the leaves are spread out and they do not shade each other. So just like we make our food and we eat, similarly plants also, they make their own food. And who makes the food? That I will be telling you after some time. So in the beginning of this class, I had told you to breathe in and to breathe out. So in this process, we are exchanging gases. We are taking in oxygen, we are giving out carbon dioxide. So in this similar manner, leaves also, they exchange gases. But the only difference is that we take in oxygen, give out carbon dioxide. Plants take in carbon dioxide and give out oxygen. So you can see a picture here. Leaves help the plant to breathe as it grows. So a plant breathes through its leaves. So now I hope you've understood the three categories of plants. So let's just recapitulate. You can see a tree, you can see a bush or a shrub. It's also known as a bush. And then you can see grasses. So a tree has a thick and a hard stem called as the trunk. The branches, they grow high above the ground. A bush has many hard, but the stems are comparatively thinner. The branches of the stem grow near the ground. And grass is a very small plant and it is a herb. And herbs are those kind of plants, like I told you, they have tender stems. The stems of the herbs are very soft. They can easily be plucked by the hand. Now that we know the different categories of plants, we need to know that there are two more types of plants, and these are climbers and creepers. Now we must try and understand the difference between the two. Most of the times what happens is we seem to get confused as to what is a climber and what is a creeper. So here, climbers, like the name suggests, climbers are those plants which climb. Now you must have seen a pea plant, isn't it? So when you grow a pea plant, what must you do? You have to place sticks in between the plants so that the plant, because it has very thin stems, they take the support. You have to place sticks in between the plants so that the stems, they twine around the stick, and the stick acts as a support for the plant. The wiry structures which are found in climbers are called as tendrils. So climbers, they have very weak and soft stem and they always need a support to stand and grow. You can see some examples, very common examples I have given you. So you can see a money plant, you can see a pea plant, and then a bean plant. There are several other examples, but these are just few examples which I have given you. Then what are creepers? Creepers are those kinds of plants which also have very soft stems. But how they grow is, how creepers grow is, they creep on the ground. Okay, they don't climb along the support, they just creep along the ground. So some examples are pumpkin. You know what a pumpkin is? Yes, the local name of pumpkin is it's a parshi. So have you seen a pumpkin? Yes, they have they creep along the ground. Then another one is a watermelon. and this is a muskmelon. So all these are creepers which grow along the ground. Few more examples of climbers. This is a very common example. It is a honeysuckle which has orange flowers. Then morning glory, it's also very common. Grapevine, cucumber, pea plant, money plant, jasmines, these are all examples of climbers. Let's have a look at some of the creepers which I have already taught you right now. So see, you can see that the plants are growing along the ground. Can you see? This is the fruit of the plant. And if you notice, the creepers, they have very thin and tender stems, but the fruit is usually large. It's very big in size. A picture of a pumpkin, cucumber. I was talking to you about tendril. So these are the tendrils, the thin, wiry structures found mostly in climbers. Another example could be of iskus. You know, iskus is so common in Sikkim, so it's also called a squash. Next is the stem. So what is a stem? The stem helps the water and minerals to go to the leaves and other plant parts attached to the stem through narrow tubes inside them. So you can see a picture of the stem here. So here I have a plant. So this is the stem. Below are the roots. This is the stem of the plant. You can see the leaves and the flower. So this is the stem. Stem has a very important role. So let's have a look at some of the functions of the stem. Stem supports the leaves. Stems move the water and minerals and the manufactured food throughout the whole plant. Green stems help produce food through photosynthesis. Stems store food that have been manufactured by the plant. So stem is the supporting part of the whole plant. Like we also have a support system. We have the backbone, isn't it? So that is why we are able to stand. Similarly, the plant is able to stand because it has the stem. Apart from acting as a supporting part of the plant, it also helps in the transport of water, minerals and also food. The next part of the plant are the roots. So like I told you, the roots, they are generally below the ground. Okay? So roots, they act like straws and they absorb water and minerals from the soil. Tiny root hairs stick out of the root, helping in absorption. Roots help to anchor the plant in the soil so it does not fall over. Roots also store extra food for future use. So roots are very important. If the plant has no roots, it will not be able to survive. So they are very thin and they are whitish in color. But normally we think that roots are brown in color. So why is it brown in color? Yes, it's because of the soil that it has been in. The functions of the root: it absorbs all the water and minerals that a plant needs to live. It anchors or it fixes the plant to the ground and also supports the above part of the plant. And it also stores food made through photosynthesis. So whenever we water a plant, how do we normally water the plant? Yes, obviously we water it in the roots, isn't it? Because the roots, they absorb the water and then the water is transported through the stem to all the parts of the leaves. Earlier, I had told you that herbs, they are very tender, isn't it? And an example of a herb I gave you was a grass. So a grass is a plant that grows very close to the ground, and of course it's very easy to tear or to pluck the grass. But have you ever tried uprooting the grass? Is it very easy to uproot the grass? No, it is not easy, isn't it? You might think it's very easy to uproot the grass. If you haven't, you just try and uproot. Just try and take out the grass along with the roots. You will notice that it is not as easy as we think. So the roots, like I told you, they help to fix the plant to the ground. Are you able to connect? Understood? And the next one, roots. Some of the roots, they also store food. For example, radish is a root, okay, and it is a root which is edible. Edible, I'm sure you know the meaning of edible. Yes, edible is the part which can be eaten, which we've learned in our first chapter. Now coming to one of the most important part of the plant, that is the leaf. So here I have a leaf. Of course it's quite small, but I'm sure you'll be able to understand by looking at it. This is a leaf. So what is the importance of leaf? Let's try and find out. So a leaf is a green organ of a plant. The part of the leaf by which it is attached to the stem is called the petiole. The broad green part of the leaf is called the lamina. The lines on the leaves are called the veins. There is a thick vein in the middle of the leaf which is called as the midrib, and these veins, they make a pattern on the leaf which is called venation. So this is a leaf like I was showing you. This is the flat part of the leaf which is called as the lamina, and the pointed structure you see here is known as the tip of the leaf. So here you can see the leaf. It is flat, it is expanded, and it is the broadest part of the plant, the leaf. The most important part of the leaf is to manufacture food, and it has a very prominent line in the middle of the leaf which is called a midrib, and it has many veins. Veins are a system of tubes which help to transport the nutrients and water. This is not there in your book, but in your higher classes you will learn that the veins have a system of tubes which are known as the xylem and the phloem. This you will be doing in your higher classes. So you can see a picture of a leaf. So a leaf has two sides, the upper side and the lower side. So this is a picture of the lower side, and the lower side you can see the veins more clearly. The veins are very distinct on the lower side of the leaf. The arrangement of veins on the leaves is known as venation. So there are two types of leaf venation. One is a reticulate venation and the other is a parallel venation. Parallel venation, in this type of leaves, the veins, they run parallel to one another. This kind of venation can be seen in plants like grasses, in maize, and the other is reticulate venation. And if the design is like a net on both sides of the midrib, this venation is said to be a reticulate venation. So this is a leaf with a reticulate venation. This is a leaf which has veins which are running parallel to one another. So this is an example of a parallel venation. So this I have already explained. Like we breathe in through our nose and we exchange gases, plants also they exchange gases through the leaves, and on the lower side of the leaves there are tiny structures which are found. Now what are these tiny structures? Let us try and understand. So on the undersurface of the leaves, they are minute, very, very tiny pores which are microscopic. We cannot see it with our eyes. Okay, so they are known as stomata, and they are present on the undersurface of the leaf. So you can see a structure of a stomata. Stomata is the plural form, and a single one is known as a stoma. So what do these stomatas do? So like I told you, stomatas are very tiny and they are found on the leaf, through which water and gases are exchanged in the plant and atmosphere. Let me just give you an example, like I always do, so that you have a clearer understanding, okay? When it is very hot, what happens to our body? Yes, we start to perspire, isn't it? हाम्रो जिउबाट पसिना निस्किन्छ. Now, where is this sweat coming out from? So when we look at our hands and when we look at ourselves, we cannot see any pores, isn't it? But there are many pores present on our skin. Now we cannot see it, but we know that they are pores, because when we feel hot, we start to perspire. पसिना निस्किन्छ नि जिउबाट. So this proves that there are tiny pores on the skin. So you can link it with the stomata. Stomata, they are also very tiny, and through which water and gases get exchanged. So you can see a picture of a leaf, and water is coming out from the leaves. And when water comes out from the leaves, they come out in the gaseous form, in the vapor form, and this process is called as transpiration. Transpiration releases a lot of water into the air through this process. There are many activities in your book. After we are done with this, I will show you some images of what kind of activities you should be doing and which are the activities which you should be knowing. So now that we know about the plant and the various parts, let us try and recapitulate and understand it once more. So plants can be categorized into three: herbs, shrubs and trees. Of course, all the parts of the plants are important, but one of the most important part of the plant is the leaf. Let us try and understand why the leaf is so important. So it helps, number one, in manufacturing food. It is also known as the food factory of the plant. So if leaf is known as the kitchen of the plant, it prepares food using carbon dioxide, water. It also helps in the exchange of gases. So like I told you, leaves have small or tiny openings called stomata, which helps in the exchange of gases and also water. Then they also cool the area by the process which is known as transpiration. They also help to cool the environment. Now, like I was telling you, plants, they make their own food. When we cook food, we need certain raw materials to cook the food, isn't it? So similarly, plants also, they require some kind of raw materials by which they can make their food. So let us try and see what they require. So plants, they can make their own food, but for that they need a pigment which is called as chlorophyll. So chlorophyll is a green pigment which helps the plant to become green in color, and in that process it helps the plant to make the food. So what happens during photosynthesis? So let's break the word photosynthesis into two. Photo means light and synthesis means to make or to manufacture. So during photosynthesis, plants use light energy from the sun to convert carbon dioxide from the air and water from the soil into sugar to feed the plant. During this process, oxygen is released into the air. Because of that, plants are very important since they clean the air and they provide us with oxygen, which is very, very essential for the survival of living beings. Now we come to the other part, that is the root. Root, we already know they grow under the ground, but there are two types of roots which you have to know, and they are taproot and fibrous root. So a taproot is a plant in which there is a central large dominant root. So this is the central dominant root from which smaller lateral roots arise. And a fibrous root is a one in which there is no primary root. There is no dominant root. All of them, they grow about the same size. So you can see the difference. Here you can see that there is a primary root, but here there is no primary root. All the roots are somewhat of the same size. So here are some images. You can see a taproot system here. So this is a taproot system with a very prominent primary root. This is a carrot, which is also a root. And I already mentioned that roots, they also store food. So this is a food, isn't it? Then this is also another plant. And have a look at the fibrous root. You can see that all the roots, they are about the same size. Then here again another example. You can see a radish, and radish has a very prominent primary root, and other roots, lateral roots, they arise from the primary root. So what is this? Yes, this is a picture of a maize plant. So a maize plant, have you ever seen a maize plant? So a maize plant has a leaf which has the veins growing in a parallel manner. So this is a maize plant with leaves having parallel venation, and the roots are mostly fibrous. So plants which have parallel venation mostly have roots that are fibrous in nature. See here, you can see a picture of a maize plant and all the roots coming out from the plants. Now you'll also notice that these are the roots. These are also roots, a type of a root, which are known as prop roots. They help to support the plant. Please also remember that those plants which have reticulate venation, most of them, mostly, they have taproot system. So just try and connect reticulate venation having taproot system. Parallel venation, they have fibrous root system. You must have been to a garden, isn't it? So when you go to a garden, what do you find? Yes, you find many different types of plants. But apart from the plants, the thing which makes us feel so nice are when we see so many different varieties of flowers, we like the sight of it, isn't it? So here you can see a picture of a garden with so many flowers. And if you will notice, the flowers are brightly colored. Now do you know, have you ever wondered why the flowers are so beautiful in colors? Why they are so vibrant? Why they are so colorful? Yes, have you ever seen insects visiting a flower? Yes, so the flowers are so beautifully colored because they need or they attract insects. They attract insects, like you can see an image, a bee sitting on a flower. And what does the bee do? Yes, it collects the nectar. Nectar, what is nectar? Nectar are the sweet juices which are present in the flower, and they take the nectar and they convert it into honey. So you can see a honeybee nicely sitting on a beautifully colored flower. Flowers have other visitors too. So you can see a butterfly enjoying the beauty of the flower. So when we look at a flower, we will see that a flower is also made up of different parts. So the flower has 4 parts: sepals, petals, stamen and carpels, or also known as pistil. Now before I teach the flower, I need to tell you about a flower which is unisexual and a flower which is bisexual. So by the word itself, unisexual, uni means when it has only one reproductive organ. Bisexual means it has 2. Bi means 2. So it has 2 sexual reproductive organs. Okay? Stamens and carpels, they are the reproductive organs of the plant. So if both are present in one plant, in a flower, it is called a bisexual plant or a bisexual flower. If it has either stamen or if it has either carpel or pistil, then it is known as a unisexual flower. So what are sepals? Sepals are leaf-like. They are usually green and they encircle the flower stem beneath the petals. And sepals, they have a very important work. They perform a very important function. So what do? They support and protect the plant, especially when it is in the budding stage. It also protects the internal structures of the plant. So you can see a picture here. And this is the outermost. Remember that sepals are the outermost wall of the flower. So these are the sepals. These green leaf-like structures, they are the sepals. Just have a look at this picture. So this is the sepals. Next we have the petals. So petals, they are also leaf-like, but they are colorful structures and they are also known as the corolla. They often have nectar and perfume at their bases, and they also perform a very important function, and that is to protect the fertile structures, and also they help to attract insects. So you can see a picture of a flower, and like I told you, a flower is always beautifully colored, very vibrant. And why they are so? Because they help to attract the insects. So plants need flowers to help them to reproduce. Now we know from our previous classes, when we were much younger, we learned that living things grow, living things eat, living things reproduce. So flowers, they are the reproductive organs of the plant. Okay? So each part of a flower has a certain function in the reproduction process. Reproduction is the process by which a species continues its race. So you can see the female reproductive organs. The female part is called the pistil. This is the pistil of the flower. And the pistil is made up of 3 parts, that is stigma, style and ovary. So the topmost part of the pistil is the stigma, and they are usually sticky so that they can collect the pollens. So here you can see the topmost part of the pistil is the stigma, which is usually sticky in nature. Then you have a tube-like structure which is called the style, and then you have a swollen part which is called as the ovary. So when you cut a flower at the base, that is the ovary, you will find that there are numerous ovules present inside the ovary. Here, this is a transverse section. So you can cut in a longitudinal way and in a transverse section. Okay, this is a transverse section of the ovary. This is the ovary containing all the ovules inside. So see, this is a flower, and when you remove all the parts, that is the sepals and the petals, you will find this kind of structure. And I hope you know what this is. I just told you that this is the pistil. This is the female reproductive organ, stigma style ovary. When you take a blade and you cut it this way, this is called a longitudinal section. So if you cut it this way, you can see the ovules inside the ovary. You can also cut it in another way, in another manner, that is in the transverse section. Okay? And then you can see the ovules inside the ovary. You can cut it into two ways, that is a longitudinal manner and in a transverse manner. Stamens. Stamens are the male reproductive part of the flower. So it consists of the filament and the anther. So this is how a stamen looks after you have taken it out. This is the male part of the flower called the stamen. The anther produces the pollen grains. When the grains are fully grown, the anther splits open. And the pollen grains, like I told you, where are they going to go? Yes, they are going to go to the stigma. And because the stigma is sticky, the pollen grains, they get stuck to the stigma. And this long tubular structure which you see, this is called the filament. So for your standard, you just need to know that a stamen has two parts, that is the anther and the filament. So now we've come to the end of the chapter. There are many activities which you need to do. You should be doing these activities. Had we been in our classroom right now, what would we have done? Yes, we normally ask all the students to collect different types of leaves, and we also ask them to get a flower so that we can have a clearer look of the flower by performing the activities by ourselves. Nevertheless, even if we are not in the classroom right now, we must take this opportunity to be able to do this on our own. So I would like to request all the students, everyone who is watching this video, please get different types of leaves. Observe the leaves, observe the veins, observe the type of venation they have, whether it is a parallel venation, whether it has a reticulate venation, and also get a flower so that we can take out its part and have a clearer look inside the flower. So when we take out the parts of the flower, this is called dissection. So today, let us try and understand what a flower looks like inside. So all of you, please get a flower, and when you get a flower, please try and get a flower that is a little big, so that it will be very easy for you to be able to get all the parts of the flower. And also please make sure that they have both the male and the female reproductive part. And because you might find it difficult to know which flower has both the reproductive organs or which flower is bisexual, let me just help you. This is a very common flower. This is known as a China rose or also known as a hibiscus. Okay, so you try and dissect a flower which I have in my hand. So this is a hibiscus. So what you will do is, you will try and pull out each part one by one. And after you have pulled out each part, you will carefully place it on a piece of chart or a paper, and you will label each part of the plant. And please make sure to also write the function of each part of the flower. So this is a picture of a lily. If you don't get a hibiscus flower, you can also perform this activity with a lily, and this is very easily available. You can find it in the market. I'm sure it's familiar to most of you. So you can see this is a lily. The outermost part here, which is green in color, is the calyx or the sepal. The brightly colored part is the petals. And then you can see these structures out here. So these are the stamens. There may be hundreds of it. If you will dissect a hibiscus, you will see that there are numerous number of stamens. And this is the female reproductive part, and you can see that it's a little swollen, isn't it? And if you take out all the parts, you will see a proper structure of the female reproductive part. Hibiscus can be found. I have a red colored hibiscus. You can also find different colored hibiscus flowers, okay? So this is a pink colored hibiscus, and you can see this is the female reproductive part, which is the pistil, and these numerous structures are the stamens, the male reproductive part. If you look closer, you will find that the anthers, they have a powdery feeling to it. They have a powder, and that is the pollen grains. So like I told you, please first take out the sepals because it is the outermost part of the flower. Then remove all the petals. Then you will find the pistil and the stamen. This can be an assignment for you. So this is a cross section of the flower. You can see the petals, you can see the sepals, and then you can see a tubular structure here, that is a style. And then you will find a swollen part, that is the ovary. And if you cut this ovary, you will find, yes, you will find lots and lots of ovules inside them. So do you think that flowers are important? Yes, flowers are important because they are the reproductive parts of the plant. There is an activity in your book which I would like to help you out with. Now that we know that plants, how they are categorized, let's try and give the answers to this. So tomato plant, you know, it's short, the stem, it's green, it's tender, and what it is? It is a herb. Mango is a tree, you know that, but you should know why it is categorized, why it is a tree. So it is very tall, the stem is very thick, it's known as a trunk, and it is very hard, and you will find that the branches grow high above the ground. That is why it is called a tree. Lemon is about the size, like I told you, 5 to 6 feet, and the stem is not as tender as a tomato, so it's quite hard. It grows at the base of the stem, and since it grows at the base of the stem, we can categorize it as a shrub. Potato, it is very short. It has a green tender stem. It grows at the base of the stem. That is why we have to categorize it as a herb. Neem, very tall, thick stem, hard stem, high above the ground, and it is a tree. Apple is also a tree, and it is also very hard, the stem, and then it is categorized as a tree. Rose, again not very tall, stem is green, it is quite tender. Sometimes due to aging it can be a little tougher, it can be a little more hard, but it is a shrub because the branches grow higher on the stem. So this is how you should categorize the plants. I hope it's very clear to you. Again, we'll do another activity. So for this, you will require flowers. Okay, so you will require flowers, and then you can take any container. You can use bottles also. So what you should do is, you should, like you can see a picture here, you should take the same colored flower. Take a flower which is white in color. I'll tell you why. See, here it is water, plain water. Here you can see that it is pink in color, the solution, and here is slightly yellowish. Okay, so we learned that stems, they help to transport the water, isn't it? So what do you think will happen? We have the same colored flowers, and if you keep it like this for a few hours, you will notice that since the stem absorbs the water, the petals, they will start to appear like the solution they have been kept in. So this activity proves that the stem transports water. Isn't it interesting? Please try this at home. Then you take a leaf with a reticulate venation and a leaf with a parallel venation. You can take any leaf. Okay, and for the parallel venation, very easy, you can take the leaf of a grass. So what you do is, you take a piece of paper. Okay, you take a piece of paper, and underneath the paper you keep the leaf, and then what you do is, you start shading it. So once you shade, you will find that all the parts of the leaves will start appearing on the paper. So veins are the water transport organs of the plant. They are hard tube-like structures. So when we place a paper on a leaf and rub it hard, the veins make an imprint on the paper. So please also do this experiment. It's very easy, and you just need a leaf, you need a paper, keep the leaf beneath the paper and rub it with a pencil. Rub it meaning shade it with the pencil, and then you will observe that the veins appear on the paper. I also told you that plants, they transpire, they undergo transpiration. So what is transpiration? Transpiration is the loss of water in the form of water vapor. So again, you need a potted plant. You need a potted plant, and in one of the stems of the plant, please cover it with a polythene bag, tie it at the bottom, keep it in the outside, and in a few days or even after a few hours, you will notice that the polythene bag is filled with tiny droplets of water. This experiment helps us to understand that water is removed from the leaves, and I told you that leaves have stomata. So there's another activity here. So here is a plant with a root, here is a plant without root. So if you keep such kind of plants, what will happen? Yes, you will notice that this plant will grow very tall. But what about this plant? It will start to wither, isn't it? Kina? Because the roots, they absorb water, and the roots bina chai plants haru, they will not be able to survive. There is another activity, and this activity asks us to germinate seeds of a gram and a maize. So kalo chana linu, and you take makai ko dana linu. You know how to sprout the seeds from your first chapter. So what you will observe is that there will be small sprouts coming out from the gram and the maize, and you will also observe that the separation of the gram root will be a little difficult than uprooting the maize root. Now just think, why is it more difficult to uproot a maize root? Yes, I've already told you, no, maize root ma chai primary root hundaina. All the roots are of the same size, so uprooting the root will be difficult. but a gram root is a little more easier because it has a primary root, it has a central main root which can be uprooted more easily than a fibrous root. So here you can see, this is a picture of a maize, and you can see a single root coming out. But here, what do you see in a gram? Yes, what can you see? You can see a root, and then you can see many small roots coming out. So this is an example of a fibrous root system. This is an example of a taproot system. So let us recapitulate. We know that plants, the main parts of the plants are stems, roots and leaves. So stems, they grow above the ground, they transport water and minerals. Leaves, they are known as the food factories because they manufacture food by the process of photosynthesis. And roots, they are very important because they absorb water and minerals and nutrients from the soil. So what did we learn from today? We learned that plants, we learned the different parts of the plant, we learned the different parts of the flower, and I hope you will be able to label each part of the plant after doing the experiment that I have asked you to do. So for your assignment, you can also do you can make a detailed diagram of the flower, and it should have the carpel and it should have the stamen, and label each part, and you can also write the functions of each. So now we've come to the end of the class today. I hope whatever I have taught has been understood by each and every one. Thank you.